I hereby call this regular meeting of the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors to order. We will begin this evening with an invocation by Ms. Kupka, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able to stand, please do so.
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us all here together this evening to conduct the business of the Service Authority. Please watch over all who gather here. Please give us the wisdom and strength to make decisions in the best interest of the customers we serve, our employees, and our community. In your name we pray, amen. United States of America, and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, do we have any amendments to the agenda this evening?
No, sir.
Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Anybody in the audience wish to speak this evening? Yes, ma'am. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. If comments relate to a specific public hearing item, we ask that you offer these comments at the time of the public hearing. Mr. Dines, get you set up there.
Yeah. Well, my name is Ana Maria Lovell. I live in Presidential Lakes. Tonight, I came to tell the Service Authority that I think you misunderstood me when I asked about the notification of the funds that you received on December 7, 2020. I was not asking about me receiving any of these funds, but if any of these was given to the customers who needed help paying their bills. I know that many people in 2020 were having problems paying their water and sewage bills. If any of these got to help them needed from these funds. I also want to ask Mr. Miller to assure the people of King George, since you are to be not only the county administrator, but the manager of the Service Authority as well, that 2 or 3 years from now, that you will come back and tell us what you accomplished. Since these problems has been going since the 90s, if I remember correctly, the taxes from cigarette was going to help. The billing was also a source. I wonder if that has helped, since nothing seems to help. Also, I want to know, I want you to know that I'm not blaming you for these problems. Since you are new to this job, you inherit these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Dines, do we have anybody online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, reports from the members. Ms. Bender.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lowell, thank you for coming as always. And Mr. Miller, I think Ms. Norris Barker could probably tell us how many people were served with the COVID funds. Would it be okay to have her come up and?
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest is either Patty or I don't see Ms. Hahn here, so.
With the CARES funds, there was 693 customers that received those funds. The ARPA funds, which was a different pot, so to speak, I believe there was 573 customers that received those funds.
Could you specify, I don't want to put you on the spot, but the exact amount that we received? I know we paid out like 142 last year around this time.
The CARES funds, we paid out, I believe that was 142,000, and on the ARPA funds, it was 93,000.
Thank you very much for clarifying. I know we helped out a lot of customers.
We did.
Thank you for bringing that up and clarifying so that the public could hear how much did benefit the citizens. Thank you for coming always and talking to us and telling us what you hear about in the community. Thank you. The only thing I want to bring up is I was notified from some folks from DEQ on the other side of the house where I interacted on the HB 206 committee about solicitation period for 2 ARPA wastewater funds that are open now through December 15th. I passed them on to Mr. Miller and Mr. Minor to investigate and look on it. And Mr. Miller, in your board report, can you mention any of that? It's not a lot, but it is an opportunity maybe for some of those smaller projects. And I really appreciate the DQ for sending it to me to pass on. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pender. Mr. Parker.
I just want to say thank you to Ms. Kupka for jumping quickly on a customer assistance in Hop Yard. She was on it before I even saw it posted on Facebook, so much appreciated.
Thank you. Ms. Kupka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Lavelle, for coming out this evening. And if staff can correct me, when you say customers got that money, the money was used to fulfill their outstanding balances if they were in arrears on their accounts, right? That's how that program worked. So we released the funding to satisfy the customers' bills who were behind. So it did, in fact, benefit a number of our customers. But thank you for asking that question, Ms. Lavelle. And as a follow-up, Mr. Miller, we had an email from the last meeting, right before the last meeting, from Mr. Franklin, the Director of Social Services, with regard to a new opportunity that my understanding is that customers, we don't administer that. The Service Authority doesn't administer this program, nor does the Department of Social Services. They have to visit some sort of website to do that. Do we have any more information on that maybe during your county or your general manager's report that you could provide us on that?
You bet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Cleveland.
Yes. So recently I was at a get together and one of our customers were talking about how there's been a lot of bubbles that have been coming out in her water and sort of look like soapy sheen on her water. And this has been happening recently with my water as well. And at first I didn't think anything of it, but then after we were speaking to each other, I thought that I probably should bring it up, maybe have either Mr. Miller talk about maybe why that's happening or look into it for us.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you. And I have nothing to add. Moving on to consent agenda.
Motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Motion been made in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Moving on, report for County Attorney, Ms. Lackey.
Good evening. I have a fairly brief report. Just wanted to make it known that the Birchwood Power Partners Limited Partnership has filed amended rezoning and special exception permit applications. And the proffer statement does reference that they are in negotiations with the Service Authority regarding a memorandum of understanding concerning an offtake for water. And at this point in time, we do not yet have another draft of that agreement, but I just wanted the board to be aware that that is, in the public realm. And at some point in the future, there may be drafts that are also going to be circulated publicly up until, the board takes action to either accept or ask for further revisions on yet another draft. But that's where we're at on that item.
Thank you. Any presentations or reports this evening? No? Okay, action item, extension of Emboden service contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we are asking for an extension similar to the last extension that we asked for. My understanding is, Ms. Lackey can add to this, but is that Emboden is fine with that. We are, if you remember, I briefed the board on the 18th that the operator contract was the reissuance that we had of the proposal. The request for qualifications was submittals were due last Friday, the 28th. And so what our hope is our plan would be to get something to you on the 15th. We are going to start looking at those proposals because they're obviously adding some other things to it. And so we would hopefully be in a position to bring that back to you. But in the meantime, because the agreement that we have with the operator in charge contract with Emboden Services runs through the 11th of every month, and they're currently on a month-to-month. We just need to extend it, and I think that we were talking about up to 90 days. Is that right? And it allow us to continue to have their services while we deal with these discussions that we're going to start having.
What was the extension? How many days?
So your next board meeting would be the 15th, so they would be we wouldn't have a contract after the 11th. Their contract is dated the 11th, I believe, is when it's.
I think it's the 9th.
Okay.
At any rate, it's before the 15th.
Right.
The proposed extension is 30-day increments up to 90 days. So the same term as the last short-term renewal is the proposed language.
So we just need a motion for that.
And there's no change to their rates or anything like that. It's the same contract that's in place right now. It just gives us that extra 90 days of their services if we need that 90 days. But as Ms. Lackey said, it would be 30-day increments.
So I guess I'd make a motion that we allow for the extension of the current Emboden contract in 30-day increments up to a maximum of 90 days.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman. So I'm just want to be clear here. So on November 15th, you feel like we're probably going to be able to start having discussions on what those contracts will look like going forward. And the only reason why I ask is because I feel like that we've been here many times before, like extending it.
Right. Yes, that is my plan. I know that my staff would probably tell me, wait, you have to wait until we reviewed it, but I'm ready to bring something back to you and to at least give you an update on where we stand so that we can go forward with this. Because I do believe in conversations that we're having with the folks from the Department of Environmental Quality on our consent orders, they would like to see some resolution to this as well. So it's not just that it's, King George County that wants a resolution on this. I think there's a lot of other folks that would like to see that if we're going to do this, then let's do it. If we're not, then let's move in another direction. But yes, that's my hope. That's my plan.
Thank you. And then also, I know that we had spoken in the past about perhaps doing a work session with that. Do you think it's needed, or do you think we'll be able to have most of our sessions done within our normal board meetings? And I ask that because it's probably something else that we wouldn't need to coordinate because I know all of our schedules are really busy.
I don't think I could get you anything before the 15th, so I would think that, perhaps you get introduced to it and then we schedule some kind of a work session if you feel the need at that point. But I do think that we're going to need all the time up until the 15th to prepare for some kind of a report and an update.
Thank you.
Okay. Any others? Okay, roll call vote. Ms. Bender?
Aye.
Mr. Parker?
Aye.
Ms. Kupka?
Aye.
Ms. Cleveland?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion carries. Moving on to the general manager's report, Mr. Miller.
Okay, so we don't have your to-do list, but I'll get it to you. I'm sorry. Just again, I think that as I reported at the last meeting on the 18th of October, what we're doing with to-dos is as we make changes to existing projects or ongoing projects, they'll be done in bold red. And then when we go ahead and complete something, we then go ahead and we'll move it to the bottom of the pages and it'll be in yellow. And we're doing the same thing for the Board of Supervisors. The water grant update. So again, that project is a series of projects. I think we presented that information to you at a previous meeting. Everything is essentially on task on that. And, you know, the coordination with the folks from the Virginia Department of Health and their third-party administrator is going well from our financial standpoint. But we are obviously working towards some of the initial projects, as you know, the interconnections, that's one, and the tying of courthouse and circle, and the various other things that we're doing with wells down in Dahlgren and such as that. So Potomac Landing, when you hear Potomac Landing well or you hear Fairview 3, it's either or. They're both. We have the option of locating it in one or the other to serve that community. So those are other projects that are a part of it. The wastewater grant, same thing. I think we reported at the last meeting that we have the ability to add some projects, and so we are working with our engineering rep, Bill Randall from TRC, which is formerly Draper Aden, identifying some projects that maybe were not in that initial letter. We've had conversations with DEQ on that, and they've indicated that we basically can kind of redefine whatever projects that we want. We obviously are very concerned about funding for pump station upgrades, which is under an existing superseding consent order. There's a number of them that we have communicated with DEQ about regarding, first, we got to determine if they're ours, and second, if they aren't, how do we either shed responsibility for them, or we do, have some responsibility and we perform some upgrades to those as well. So those are some of the things that we're working on, and those would be projects that could, if they are going to have to be done, could come under this grant as well. We're also looking at some things that are related to the Dahlgren wastewater plant that would be inserted into this project or this grant as well. A number of things at the plant that require some pretty significant upgrades, and we want to make sure that those things are all accounted for. And Emboden Environmental is working with Mr. Randall and our team to make sure that the things that they are noticing from having been our operator and been very closely working with us, that those things would become projects as well. So we have a lot of time still left. Again, that's a big shot in the arm for us, and we're really excited about having that. The other projects update, I would just report that the Canterbury observation well is nearing completion. We're working with the folks with DEQ and I believe VDH as well, and TRC, our engineering reps, to make sure that one, DEQ has got to be on site when they're doing the things that they're doing when they're drilling, and so that's been a coordination challenge, but it's working out. So if there's any people that live in that residents that live in the area, and if they have any questions, about the status of the project, it's ongoing and it's wrapping up soon, and we'll be able to, they'll get everything restored to the way it was before. The Fairview Beach outfall, obviously, the board awarded the bid for that, and then the other project that of significance was the the reserve sludge pond at Dahlgren. And that one, you also awarded a bid at the last board meeting. So those projects are on task as well. Potential wastewater related grant funding, as Ms. Bender had referred in her report. We are going to look at this. This is related to collection systems. And so what we're going to do is we're asking Mr. Randall as well to look at some of those. I'm meeting tomorrow with Bryce Young and Travis Cusenberry, and we'll talk about some projects. There's a full range of things that we could do. It's not tied to the wastewater grant that we received, the big money. It's not tied to that. It's a different pot. And so we'll pursue that. And I'm sure that we'll have some opportunities that we can, we have a lot of projects that we could probably definitely spread some money towards. And again, that's a wastewater related grant. Ms. Kupka referred to what's called the LHWAP, which is a low income housing water assistance program. And I forwarded an email that I received. Kimberly Cook, who is our grant writer for the county, was able to make connections with the organization that we would go ahead and work with. And so we will follow up on that. And we received an email back from the young lady that is coordinating that and indicating the process that we can go through. So I'll get with Ms. Norris Barker and then we can do whatever advertisements or whatever information sharing to provide to the folks who would be most in need of this. And if there's a way to get some assistance for some folks, I think it was very nice of Mr. Franklin to provide that information. So update on the proposed consent order discussions. I will give you a general overview. And if you want more of the legal or more of the technical, then perhaps Ms. Lackey can provide that. But essentially, we've had some fairly fruitful discussions with the folks from DEQ. This is in regards to the Dahlgren plant and also in regards to the Perkins Corner plant. Clearly one of the things that they're most focused on is about operations. They're most focused on, getting a Class 1 operator in there and having that staffed at Dahlgren pretty consistently, if not every day for a week, at a week at a time. And so they do have some pretty strict guidelines. We're working through that. They seem open to suggestions. They seem open to working with us. And we are going to obviously provide them with some kind of a draft proposal fairly soon. We would obviously discuss with you guys what our proposal is, but we still are hammering out a lot of the details. It looks like our next response is the 7th of November. And so we'll, in terms of what we're proposing, we'll do that and then see what they do when they come back. But I do think that they're negotiating pretty well in good faith. Would you agree? And hopefully, we can carve off a significant amount of the penalty that they're trying to enforce on us. And then also in the meantime, improve things greatly at Dahlgren. I think that's it, unless there's any items that you want to add anything or, okay.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. And I may have missed this, but have we identified the potential site for the projected new well in Fairview Beach?
Patty, you might help me, but if it's a new one in Fairview Beach, it's up there by the existing wells, correct? So it wouldn't be, it would be in the Fairview Beach area. If you know where the existing well is, kind of up the road from Tim's 2. And if it's not that one, then it would go to the other area. You have an existing well, 2 wells at Potomac, and one of them's pumping sand. So that one's no good. So I think the plan was it would be right, like maybe 30 feet, 40 feet from the existing Potomac landing site where they would do a test. So we can put it in either location. I think it's all just based on what the cost estimate would be to drill it and that kind of stuff. But it would not, it's going to impact, be an improvement, obviously, for the system down there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Miller.
I make a motion to adjourn to November 15th, 2022 at 5:30 PM here in the boardroom.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned until November 15th, 2022 at 5:30 PM here in the boardroom.